All right, sweet. We're rolling. So guys, I got Eden from Willow Tree Dog Training with me today. Eden and I have been working together for a couple of months now, since February 9th, I believe, is when we officially started. So Eden, why don't you just kind of kick it off for everybody here? Tell everyone a little bit about yourself, how we got connected, and how you got started as a trainer.
Yes, of course. So I'm originally from California. I moved out to Arizona about 2 years ago. I started, I would say, back in 2019, just working at like boarding and training facilities. I was that one person in, the yard with 20 dogs, and it would stress me out because I would watch my other like fellow colleagues be trainers, and I'd be like, I want to do that. I want to be, I don't want to be out here breaking dog fights and like being stressed out over dog behavior. Like I want to learn. So I started shadowing trainers, and once I started shadowing trainers, I like instantly fell in love. But I knew that there was like more to it because a lot of it was just basically like positive reinforcement. And like, I learned a lot about the positive reinforcement, but I wanted to also work with more challenging dogs, like more reactive dogs. So from that point on, I really just started applying what I learned to my own dog, Willow. She's the namesake of my company.
Oh, there you go.
She's a pit bull mix, and she's very sassy, but she was kind of my guinea pig. I just started instantly like training her every day at home, just fell in love with it, researched everything. Again, I was shadowing my colleagues, so I took everything I learned from them and started applying it at home. From that job, I just kind of went from there to working at a rescue. It was a rescue for e-listed pit bulls and other dogs, but it was mainly pit bulls and like more, I guess, aggressive breeds. But we started working with these dogs that really couldn't be in any other home. They would have super crazy prey drive. Maybe they were super dog aggressive or human aggressive even. So going from basically just doing positive reinforcement with like puppies and like adult dogs and having kind of that limitation, the rescue really kind of opened up my world to more of that like balanced dog training. So I was able to kind of use the conjunction of both. These dogs were, previously muzzle trained. So it was something where I learned a lot of e-collar training, a lot of prong collar training with these dogs. And it was amazing. It was nice. Like I literally felt like I was going to therapy every day, going to the rescue, because it was the way it was set up. It was like a giant winery, and we would like walk around the winery. It was a little rescue on a winery.
Oh, cool.
So every day we'd go for walks with the dogs, and like I learned the e-collar training. We would just do like lots of sits and downs, and we'd work through some of like that prey drive, because back in California, it's like lots of squirrels, and we had cows on that property and things like that. So I loved it. It was nice to just go on a walk. I could like, I would talk to the dogs the entire time. And like, hey, so, you going through it too. So that was really like what I wanted and what I needed. So
was your first job, were you hired as a kennel tech originally?
Yeah. So like, kind of like a kennel tech. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. We were just kind of cleaning the kennels, like getting the dogs ready for boarding, kind of getting them prepared for the night. And then also like standing in the yard with them, like letting them in and out of the yards and just monitoring and babysitting. And that's where I was like the most frustrated, because I loved dogs, but I was like, there's got to be like something else with dogs that is a lot more enjoyable than this.
For sure.
So that's where like getting into the training was like an instant, like, okay, yeah, this is what I'm passionate about, which is funny because I never grew up thinking I was going to be a dog trainer. I actually like got accepted into the EMT Academy and wanted to go that route. And I'm so glad I went the therapeutic route with dogs, because even though dog training can be a lot, it's really where my heart is, and it's helped me as a person as well. But cool. Working from the rescue, after COVID hit, I started kind of applying some of the things I learned at home when COVID hit, training a couple of dogs here and there, making it really safe. And that's where I was kind of building that confidence to do things on my own. I did a lot of just prong collar work. I wasn't super confident in training a dog from scratch on e-collar yet. So lots of basic stuff. And then I did work at a bigger facility in Santa Barbara, which was Canine Solutions. They're amazing. We did a lot of e-collar training there and puppy training, and I had a lot of amazing people to learn from there. So all of that mixed together kind of prepared me for when I moved out to Arizona. I instantly was like, I'm a dog trainer. I'm going to do dog stuff. I don't know what to do though.
Yeah. Well, I think it's cool though, because, I think that's starting I mean, you really have seen like every phase almost of like getting your first job and getting hired to kind of just like help out with dogs. And like you said, like break up fights or, help cleaning the kennels or the dogs or whatever it may be. And so I think that definitely gives you like an appreciation for the whole process, because it's funny, like my background, I originally actually went to culinary school. I was going to be a chef. And my first ever job, like what I equate what you did is kind of like what I was doing is my first job was as a dishwasher. And so you start off as kind of a dishwasher, and then you make your way up to be like a prep cook, to then like a line cook, to then like a sous chef, and then like the executive chef. And so it's kind of like the same thing, right? You got to start somewhere so you can kind of really start, whatever you want to call it, start at the bottom. But now here you are, like, running your own business. So it's pretty cool to kind of just see that whole like progress and, process.
Yes, I definitely did start literally from the bottom, cleaning bottoms. No pun intended, but for real, I started, doing all the dirty stuff, doing all the like hard work. I guess to say the nasty work.
Yes. Yep.
As dog trainers, that's still part of our jobs, but at least it's not the only part of our jobs.
For sure.
So,
so did you consider having your own business out in California as well? Or did you know you wanted to wait to move to Arizona before you started off on your own?
So like, I think that like, I was only, 20 when I like was like, all right, cool. I kind of want to do this on my own. That's when COVID hit everything. So I kind of just like sat down with myself, wrote down, okay, like Willow Tree Dog Training. that name always kind of stuck with me because I always wanted Willow to be a part of because she was kind of the reason why I started everything. So I was like, all right, I like Willow Tree. That sounds good. Like it sounds kind of like hippie, like I am, because I'm a little bit of a hippie, and it just kind of flowed with what I like. So I was like, all right, we're doing this. Wrote it down. Really didn't know anything about what I was going to do for programs or pricing wise. I think the first client that I ever had, I charged her probably $1,000 for, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks of training, and she dropped her dog off every morning. And I watched the dog from morning time to like 5 p.m. And then she'd pick her dog up, because at the time I just didn't even like really think about board and trains for myself. I was like, okay, I'm just going to do a little bit of like private sessions, but on my own time, so I can like work through it and kind of figure out what I need to do and what I like to do. Dog ended up doing great with the prong collar training. Now, as a trainer, I probably would have been like, that dog definitely needed to do some I could have done a lot better, but I did get them on the right track, and that felt good. And I remember just developing my first relationship with a good client, and she was very appreciative. We'd go on walks. I was doing a lot of free private lessons and things like that. So I think for that, that was just me kind of exploring for myself, trying to build that confidence. I was super unsure. But then once I moved to Arizona, I ended up working for a company. I got a job offer from a company that did do board and trains. I know there's a lot of companies that do that, me being one of them, but it was a bigger company that, hired other people. I went and did an internship, drove out to Prescott. I believe it was like every day for 3 weeks, doing training. And that's a pretty, it's not a crazy drive, but it's a drive.
For sure.
So did that, ended up getting my first dogs, and it didn't end up working with that person, but one thing I can say is that I learned a lot about how to talk to clients, how to do turnovers, how to kind of value myself a little bit more, and like what I deserved money wise, and I learned a lot about business through her. It was just more the personableness that she was carrying was not to the level that I would have liked to have done it. For me, I genuinely want people to know that I care so much, and my heart's really in it as well. So I wanted to find that balance between business and like really showing who I am. I didn't feel like I was in that position with that person. So I ended up parting ways with that person, because for me, I was like, I don't care about money. Happiness is more important to me.
For sure.
And I already had my LLC, because when you sign up for people, they usually want you to be an independent contractor. So at that point, I already had my LLC. I already had business insurance. So I was like, well, I have all this. I already know how to do this. Let me do it my way. Let me figure out what Eden's way is. Then I started taking dogs of my own. I already had some clients from that previous business that did refer me to other people. So they were like new clients. And then I had some boarding clients from her. And yeah, just trial and error and unlearning bad things from the last people and picking up the new things, and
doing things your way. Yeah, exactly. But I think that what's really cool too is, I heard this quote the other day, and I'm not even going to try and remember who said it because I know I'm just going to get that wrong. But I think it was something like, if you're a real entrepreneur and you want to start a business, like there's nothing wrong with taking a job at a certain point. But take the job for the knowledge and experience that you're going to get from it, and not so much like the salary, because you can get a really good opportunity to go work for somewhere that may not pay you as much, but you're going to see like exactly how they do things. And that's kind of to your point from before, like you saw like how a real operation ran, their program, signed up clients, onboarded, offboarded, conducted training, did board and trains, all that stuff. And it's very easy to take that for granted afterwards and be like, oh yeah, this is just how things are done. But had you not gone through that and seen exactly how that was done, you would have had to have learned that yourself, like on the spot, and tried to figure it out. And there can be a lot of growing pains associated with that.
Yeah, there definitely was a lot of growing pains, I would say.
Yeah. There still are. When you're on your own business, like it's not like you can always know everything, but I think that can definitely fast forward the process a little bit.
Yeah. No, 100%. And with growing pains, it just makes me think of like the times where, just the beginning of my business. And even when I was like ending my independent contract with that person, I went from working 5 dogs at a time with this person because she wanted to kind of a little bit overbook us. And I, at the time, I just thought, okay, fine. Like I can do this. Everyone else is doing, I can do this. I can do this. Come to find out, for me, that wasn't the way I wanted to orchestrate things. That many dogs and that much time is really not my favorite thing in the world. I went through the growing pains of like really being burnt out and really going through the mental part of it, where I had to take a huge step away and just take time to rejuvenate myself. And then once I got back on track with my own mental health, my own sanity, my own house, and getting everything in order and just kind of just releasing everything, I was like, I want to do this again. I feel like I'm in a much better place. Let me try again, because I just wasn't willing to give it up. I just needed to take a step. And I believe that taking a step, sometimes back can give you 3-5 steps forward.
For sure.
So me taking those 2 steps back for a little bit for myself, knowing that I still wanted to do this and that I was going to do it. That's when I ended up actually reaching out to you, because I was like in this place where I was like, I was at a place where I was about to literally just go to rescues and be like, hey, let me train your dogs for free. Let me do this. Let me do this. Let me try to partner with you guys. And I would still love to do something like that. But that was where I was at, where I was like, all right, I don't know how to do this marketing stuff. I'm not really super savvy in this. I definitely would like some coaching, because I'm learning everything on my own. And there's only so much you can kind of learn over the internet. But I needed that, like, just somebody to kind of give me that extra push and that extra accountability, I would say, to kind of get myself in line. So I actually was watching some of your videos and I was like, okay, all these people are doing this thing. Like this can't be this has to be real. Like these people are like talking about the exact same things that I've been struggling with and I've been going through, like hearing people talk about burnout, having people talk about, oh man, I was putting flyers around and doing this and doing that and nothing was hitting and nothing was grabbing the line. Hearing these people say the exact same story that I was dealing with and struggling with, the consistency, not having that, I was like, all right, I don't know what this is going to look like, but I'm just going to send him a message. So I literally texted you, I think, saying something along the lines of like, hey, I watched some of your videos and I'm interested on what you're about. Like, can you let me know what you're about? And you instantly reached back out and we got on a pretty lengthy, and it wasn't like a crazy lengthy call, but we got on a call. I think it was like 20 minutes or so. And it meant a lot to me because you were just like replaying the exact same stories I had been struggling with. And it just felt so good to connect with someone that knew exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and that's, that's kind of the way that, and I know that I overdo it with like my sales process a little bit, but like, I really genuinely like talking to people and helping people. And so like, we talk to people on a weekly basis that, we don't even necessarily end up working with. But if I can add some sort of value on a call with somebody and give them something that they can walk away with and, it'll help them, then like, I think that's super impactful. And like, it's great. It's a great feeling thing, But yeah, I mean, so like, it sounds like for you, the number one reason that you kind of reached out is, well, a couple of things. Like you you were kind of feeling like you were floating around, didn't really have like a ton of direction as far as like what to do next, right? Or the knowledge on how to like implement this stuff. But you said accountability before, and I think that's a really big part. I mean, I work with a coach myself in my business. We do a ton of coaching for our clients, obviously. And I think it's the same thing for dog trainers, that, accountability is such a big part of your client's success, right? If you actually stay on top of them and give them a real proven strategy of like the homework that they should be doing in between lessons, or like when they take the dog home from the board and train, and you do a check-in with them and stuff like that. If they know that like, hey, I need to hold this standard because Eden's going to be checking back in with me, they're going to do that much more than just being like, hey, here's your dog, like, don't talk to me again. And has that kind of been your experience?
Yes, like I definitely hold a lot of my clients like accountable with things like that as well, because otherwise, how are we going to maintain that training? We got to make sure that we're the clients, the ones that are really 100%, the dogs are dependent on us, keep that skill. For me with the accountability, it was more so like feeling like I needed that extra support in my life, because like I'm the kind of person that I really do value routine and structure, and I try to give myself that, but I also struggled really bad with self-doubt and that imposter syndrome, but more just like lack of confidence and self-doubt. So for me, it was like the accountability of being like, no, like you are going to do this. You're not going to essentially like, get fearful and back out. I'm going to be kid friendly on this thing. So having you here to be like, all right, I'm going to report back to Kevin about this, or I can ask Kevin about this. I do have this support. I do have a way to get through this. I have someone that I can rely on and talk to and not feel judged or feel afraid. Because in the dog trainer community, I've struggled with, just trying to put myself out there on dog training groups and ask questions and getting a lot of backlash for not knowing. So having someone like you, it was just nice to be like, all right, he's a business coach and kind of a dog trainer. And one, even though I know you don't do the dog training thing, but you're so knowledgeable about it that it was just one of those things where it felt like a fresh breath of air to speak with you and have that, again, accountability.
That's so great. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's, you and I were definitely a really good fit to be working together, because you were definitely speaking my language from the beginning as well. And all we look for in our clients are like people who are like, ready to change, ready to do something differently, because we've worked with people in the past who unfortunately they want to change their business, but they want to do it on their terms. And I think that the beauty of running your own business is that you get to decide on how that business is run, and we always want people to have like their own unique spin on it. But I think that there's definitely a common thread that I've noticed through so many different dog training businesses. Do we have Ben walking into the room here? Oh,
no, it's just, good old friend, Alexa.
I was going to say, Alexa.
She listens to everything. She's telling me to wake up.
Yeah, I'll be on a sales call. My Alexa always, wants to chime in and tell me it's time to take out the trash or the recycling.
Thanks.
But what I was going to say is that the common thread I always notice is like people who are willing to go and be above and beyond and like deliver a good experience for their customers. And so what that looks like for us, and what I've noticed is like, being willing to get on a phone call with somebody quickly, or if you can't, like just messaging with them and letting them know like, hey, I'm free at this time. And then when you get them on that call, like going to meet with them or setting up a time to meet with them in person for a consultation and giving them like a really high touch experience where you really listen to them. And then you make them a really good offer and you spend time with them, getting to know them and their problems. So I'd love to hear from you kind of about like, your experience once we change some stuff in your business, as far as first off, like running ads, and then secondarily using Alfred, just having the process of like getting people on a call, setting the consultation and making the sale.
Yes. So as far as like running ads, I feel like I'm not, that's more of, I feel like something that you're setting up on that end. So you take care of a lot, which is awesome.
We handle all of that for you. But I mean, just like getting the phone ringing, was that like your experience, like pretty quickly you were getting leads? And
Yes. So I would say it probably took like a week and a half, but from the time that we first started for it to kind of catch up a little bit, because you had to set everything up. And I remember being kind of antsy and a little anxious, being like, oh, I'm not sure, like this is, because at the time I wasn't making anything. So I kind of was giving you all I had. And I was really I felt like, okay, I'm putting a big risk in here. Like I was just praying like, God, please, like, let this work out. I need this to work out. And so it was nerve-wracking at first, I'm not gonna lie, but then once we started actually having the ads go through and my phone started getting blown up, I mean, I just remember like the voicemails I would get, I was like, okay, they want dog training, okay. Like I can do that. So I started getting calls, I would say, like I said, into that week and a half, and it was a good amount of people. I would say, like, I would get 3 calls a day, almost 4 calls a day, some text messages, everything would go onto that lead connector, that Alfred app. And that was cool because everything from Facebook or from like phone calls or from anywhere really goes
from Google,
which is nice because then you don't have to worry about, you know, oh, did I check my Facebook Messenger? Why did this notification not pop up? Which is something I struggled with in the past, where I remember with Google, I just didn't even think anyone would ever reach out to me on there because at the time I wasn't running ads. And I think 2 people messaged me, and it was like months after, and I was like, wow, that was horrible. So having this convenience of everything going to the same place, making sure 100% I'm going to get that notification when it pops up, that was so nice. Instantly started calling these people back and jumping on getting those calls done. And I did see a big difference in just doing that, making sure that I wasn't waiting like, okay, well, you know, I have to train, you know, I was just taking that time, really like sitting myself down and calling these people, and it changed like pretty quick. Like I got a lot of consultations booked in such a short amount of time. And going into it in the beginning, of course, everything is new and there's going to be trial and error, and you're going to learn for yourself how to do these things. But I think for me, I booked myself like a consultation, like back to back, like for like 5 days in a row. And I remember being like, okay, this is my new life. You didn't like space out the days, because after like the 5th day, I was like, wow, like I'm really,
it's exhausting.
I'm really like going, so yeah, it was a huge difference, I would say, from, you know, I was working as a waitress and also boarding and doing like 1 dog every 5 months, you know, and it was so hard to try to find people sometimes.
But I think something I just wanted to say this real quick. I think something that's so fascinating is, you know, we work with so many different people, and you know, you have to have some level of self-belief when you come to us. Like, you reaching out to me, you felt like something clearly switched in your brain where you were looking at other people going like, I can relate to this person. They were going through the exact thing that I'm going through. And I think that all of us on some level struggle with like imposter syndrome, feeling like, am I really a dog trainer? For me, you know, am I really a marketer or whatever? And I think the only way you really get over that is by just kind of forcing yourself into those situations and just getting the repetitions in and like convincing yourself of like, yeah, I can do this. Everyone's so happy with what I'm doing. But yeah, I mean, I think that that's really the most important thing. And, you know, this is where the term time is money comes from, right? Where it's like literally, like you were saying before, by letting people, you know, reach out to you, and then you're reaching back out to them like a week later or a month later, whatever it is. And then it doesn't go anywhere. But if you can be the person when that phone call comes in or that message on Facebook comes in, you're like, hey, let's get on a call. I'd love to see how I can help you. And then from there, you just keep the momentum going. Hey, let's meet in person. I'll come right to you. That is such a better experience than just being like, oh, this person isn't calling me back. You know, I'm going to reach out to other people, because that's really, unfortunately, that's the most common thing that people are dealing with in this world when they reach out to small businesses or medium-sized businesses, which is like, I called and they never called me back, right? If you want to differentiate yourself, just be the person who answers their phone, and you'll win so many times.
Yeah, no, that is so true. I remember, you know, thinking to myself, like, all right, whoever calls me back is the one I'm going with. You know, as a person, I would think that myself. Be like, whoever calls me back, that's the one I'm meant to be with. So I kind of try to apply that as myself too, and be like, hey, you know, like, you know, the efforts that I'm putting forth, I know people are going to see that and appreciate it. And a lot of the time when you give, and when you're being yourself too, like, I think you and I, we talked about it a little bit, where it's like, there is a level of professionalism that we have to carry. But then there's also part of it where it's like, okay, but that person's coming to you because you're you.
Yes.
Personable. And that's one thing that I valued so much. And I feel like you just opened the door for me to just be myself and be what I wanted to be all along. So being able to do that was like, oh, it felt so good. I was like, yes, I can be myself. I can connect with the clients that I want to connect with. And now with me giving that time to people and people giving me their time as well, I've been able to sign people up like, I don't know. I didn't realize, I was thinking like I was really going to have to like do like a crazy dance or something, but no, like just me being myself and going out there and really connecting with people and showing them my heart. Like people have been so awesome and signed up, and I've gotten amazing clients that have left amazing reviews, amazing testimonies, and I'm going to continue working with them. Like they're going to come boarding. We're going to do pack walks, fun things like that. So that's what I wanted, is like, for me as a dog trainer, I know once I work with a client, I'm with them 100%, like for all of their dogs and the dog that they brought with them to training. But you know, that's what I wanted. I wanted longtime clients that become kind of like a part of the Willow Tree family, essentially. And I feel like I finally have met the people that I want, and giving that time, I can weed out the ones that maybe aren't the best fit, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, at least we can get them on the right track. But if it's not meant to be, like I said, I always tell people, I'm like, once you're with me, you're with me. And some people are just like, yes, like I've been this.
Yeah.
So,
well,
awesome.
there's a couple things I'd love to talk about. So first and foremost, I think that something I focus a good amount of attention on with clients, and I remember you and I having this conversation early on, is like, first off, what kind of business do you want to build? But also, what kind of lifestyle do you want to have? Right? Because you and I had a long talk about just kind of like almost philosophy, and being like, hey, like this is kind of the way I look at life. This is kind of like how I want to live my life. These are things that are non-negotiables on days like this. On this day of the week, I do this. On this day of the week, I do this. And so I think that, you know, the benefit of running your own business is that you get a balance between being like, hey, I need to work hard and I need to grow this thing because it's going to be such an amazing asset in my life. But what's it all for if you don't get to have some sort of time and money freedom? Right. So I think that, you know, in the beginning, you and I talking about, I think like maxing out at like 2 board and trains at a time was like, that's what I'm going to do. And you're like, I can take private lessons, but I'm only going to take on 2 board and trains. And I thought that was really smart, because I think you have to know yourself. And like you were saying before, the previous company that you were working for, they were overloading you, and you're like, you can do that for only a period of time. And then you get burned out. And then you're like, I feel like I need to take 6 months off and before I can touch another dog. Right.
Yes. And that's one of those things where I think I talked to you about it too. It's like, you think in your head, burnout has to be this thing of like really working for long periods of time until you get burnt out. I mean, you can get burnt out in 2 weeks. Like you get burnt out in a week if you just really overexert yourself in your energy.
Yeah, for sure.
Energy is such a big part of working with dogs. You have to have your energy right. You have to have your mental health correct. You know, you have to have everything good and solid, because it is a lot of that work with the dog. It is emotional work. It is that physical work. So that's where it was really important to me to just be like, all right, 2 dogs at a time. This is all I'm doing. It gives people the chance to realize like, okay, my dog is going to get the quality and the time that my dog is going in for. And so that was always important to me. So yeah, going down to 2 dogs, 2 dogs has been amazing. I love it. It fits with my lifestyle. I can breathe and take care of myself and still take care of all the dogs that I need to take care of, and fit it in my schedule as well. Because like you said, you know, we're doing this so that we can also have some things for ourselves. That's why, you know, we're doing it because we love it and we're passionate and we want to help people, but we also are doing it because we want to be able to have fun with our family and go out on those days for ourselves, and maybe take a yoga class or do this, or go, you know, expand our lives, take a culinary class or something.
Go on a vacation, you know, like you were telling me that before the call, like you're going on a vacation, and that's a really amazing thing. I mean, it's very easy to take it for granted, like if you go on vacations or something like that. But I was, you know, at that point, a point in my life as well, where like my wife and I, you know, we were in a position where like we couldn't really do stuff like that. And so like, I think that gives you so much more perspective when you're like, wow, this business has not only given me like freedom and rejuvenated me, but now it's like allowing me to do things that like even like 3 months ago, 4 months ago, I didn't think were possible for myself.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know?
When you have that like vision in your head, I've been telling my husband the same thing, because we work like crazy. He works all night, I work all day. So it's like, we haven't had a vacation in so long, and just for me to have this schedule and also be booked out and like be able to plan, okay, this month I'm taking off, and then the next month I can come back and train, is like something oh my gosh, it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's so cool.
It makes it worth it, right? Because it's like, then you're taking 2 dogs, things are slow and steady and good, and then you can look forward to like, okay, you know, like for instance, my vacation's in September, so it's like, I'm like, cool, I can do this because I have a vacation in September. But when you have nothing to look forward to and you're just working, then you're just you're not happy.
No, exactly. What's it all for,
Yeah.
But you started talking about like, your energy too, and like your energy going and working with dogs. Like, yeah, if you're burned out, I think that, maybe you find yourself not being as patient with the dogs and getting frustrated and stuff like that. But that also then carries into like, interfacing with your clients and being like, oh, I just don't feel like answering that call. The worst place you can possibly be in a business, I think, is being resentful of your clients calling you. And that's something I've been through. And that's something I've seen other people like when the phone rings, they're like, I don't want to talk to these people. And so I think like if that's kind of something you're going through, if you don't want to go and meet with somebody, you do a consultation, or you're like, my consultations are only 15 minutes because, like either you buy or you don't. It's like, you need to kind of reevaluate, I think, in your life and in your business. Am I burning myself out? Because I think that that's the other part of this where people say like, I've gotten burned out. But when you're running your own business, like you need to take accountability and go like, who's the one who's burning me out? I'm the one who's controlling my schedule. I'm the one who's putting myself in this position where I feel like I can't get out of bed in the morning because I can't face the world, And so, yeah, I think that, that's a really big part of it. Is really just kind of monitoring, like, what does my workload look like? Can I really sustain this pace for a long period of time?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's where pacing yourself, and that's where having a business coach in general, because even like I said, I was doing this all on my own from scratch, just picking up and praying, you know what I mean? Picking up all the knowledge I could learn and praying and just like trying my best. But having a business coach and having someone that I can say, hey, like I can ask the little kid questions to you, and you're just like, cool, let me do the numbers really quick. And I'm like, thank you, Father. Thank you. So it's nice because it's like, I can have somebody to ask questions and go to, especially since I just recently hired my first employee, having someone to be like, hey, I don't know how to do this. I want to do this the right way. Like, where do I start? Like, how do I do this? And having you literally walk me every step of the way and have just like I said, the questions answered. You make things simple. You don't overcomplicate things. Like, I think oftentimes when we start something new, it's just like, you overcomplicate everything in your head. To have someone to go to and then be like, you're fine. Number one, this. Number two, do this. I'm like, thank you. Like that just, you brought so much structure and peace into my business, into my life. So I appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah. Yes. No, I mean, it's my pleasure. I mean, you make my job very easy, because you don't really resist anything. You just kind of say like, hey, how can I do this better? Or what can I do here? And then you just go and do it. And so that makes my life very easy. But hey, what I'd love to talk about for a second here, but I would love to get into like hiring, your first employee, as well as like, the growth in your business and stuff like that. But I always like to try and pack these videos with as much value as possible. And something that I'm super passionate about, I love talking about, is sales. And so you are quite the sales shark, it seems like nowadays, I
guess so.
And so I'd love to kind of hear just kind of like how you structure your consultations, from start to finish, when that phone call comes in, all the way through the time that you're closing that person. And just to kind of toss something in there, I wanted to say this before, and I don't want to forget. You said like you gave me permission to kind of be myself. And it's funny that term, like being given permission, like that's something I've felt with somebody else recently, by being like, they framed something for me in my business a certain way. And I was almost kind of like, oh man, like I felt like that was what I was supposed to be doing, but I didn't know if that was like okay in this weird way, And so something that I really love about the way that you handle your business, because I'll like sometimes pop into your Lead Connector Alfred app and be like, hey, kind of where are we at? How are things looking this month? And like, I see you messaging with people, and just like even little touches of like sending a smiley face, like, okay, I'll call you in the morning, smiley face, I think that adds like a nice little kind of like personalized feel to just like how you conduct yourself. And that is kind of your personality, so I think it feels very authentic all the way through the process. Then by the time that person's getting on a call or meeting you in person, it's all very, very authentic.
Yes. And it's funny too, because I think about it and I always wonder what people are thinking, because I think we just live in this world where it's like we get stuck on one way of doing something. And a lot of the times we think that that's the idea of being professional. It's almost like the idea of being like, what is what does it mean to be an adult? I mean, there's a lot of adults we know that aren't mature.
Yeah, they aren't actually adults.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of, professionals. It's like, okay, is this your idea of professionalism? Are you really being professional? Because to me, professionalism looks like being responsive, being respectful, meeting people in the middle, being personable, being yourself, being fully transparent. Because if you're giving a service, that's a huge part of it. Because you can make anything look nice and not be real. So for me, like, that's where it's like, okay, if someone's going to take my little smiley face as not professional and go someone else, cool, they missed out.
Yeah.
What to say. But sometimes they see the smiley face and they're like, cool. And I've met with people in consultations where they're like, hey, like, thank you for letting me kind of just like cuss a little bit and rant about my dog.
Yeah.
A little bit, because I didn't even have anybody come to my house. Like, some people are like, man, I had to pay for a phone call, or I had to pay for a Zoom call, or I went on a phone call and they were talking, about my dog, and they were trying to be super nice and everything. And you just came into my house and called my dog an asshole. and a lot of the time people are like, okay, yeah, you're being real with me and I appreciate it. They like that. They really do. And they feel, it's like me and the client are giving each other permission to be ourselves. Again, we still need to be
within the realm of professional. Like, you can't be doing crazy stuff, but
maybe don't call clients dog assholes, but it works for me, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to attract a certain types of people that, they're appreciative of it. And like you said, just the smiley faces, the little extra, like, hey, how are you doing this morning? What is your day looking like? Well, like, usually when I answer the phone calls, the first thing I start with is like, hi, like, how are you doing this morning? What's going on? And then we go into the dog training stuff, because I don't want to just be like, hi, my name's Eden with Willow Dog Training. So what's up with your dog? I want to be, because it's like, I'm connecting with someone. Like, let's be real. We're all human. Let's connect on a human level of being like, hi, I see you and I witness you, and like, what's up with you? Okay, cool, let's do this. Because again, we're working with the client, and we need to know our clients and love our clients, and really like be on that level with them, I think, in order for things to roll smoothly.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, I'm thinking about it. So funny, man. I think your first call you took, or one of the first calls, you remember we were on a coaching call together and you had to answer it in front of me, and you were like totally panicked,
I literally was like, all right, I don't want you to look at me right now. I was
so
like, let me
funny.
just turn off my camera. I can't look at you now when I do this.
So funny. But yeah, so like when that call comes, or when that contact form or that call comes in, like, you're trying to get that person on a phone call quickly. If not, you're saying like, hey, this is when I have my next time that I'm available to talk. Maybe it's later today, this evening, or tomorrow morning. And so how do you handle that? And like, what's the most efficient way or effective way for you to move somebody from a phone call to an in-person consult for you?
Yes. So usually, so when someone calls, I know that like through Alfred, it does send an automated message, which is awesome, because then it can say, it instantly sends that out. So if they call, we don't pick up for whatever reason, hopefully they leave a voicemail. That's always the nicest way, I feel like. But if you can get if that automated message goes through and says, hi, this is Ian with Willow Tree Dog Training. What's a good time for me to reach you? It already kind of takes care of that part. So I'm instantly already contacting them. And then they come through and they're usually like, hey, I'm free right now, or hey, I'm free, anytime after 12 o'clock, or, they just usually let us know. And I make sure that immediately, like when I see that, I'll look at my schedule and I'll be like, okay, cool. If they're good after 12 o'clock, then I'm going to call them like at 1 o'clock. And I set a reminder and I put stuff on my phone, or I tell Alexa to put it on. You can't say it too loudly to start talking, but, so I just use what's around me. I try to set as many reminders and little alarms for things to pop up, so that I don't, because as we're doing dog training, we get busy. We're trying to stick on that schedule. But when it comes to clients, like, we got to jump on it. So for me, I try to just set those reminders for myself. I'll sit down and I'll just give them a call. And if they pick up, great. If they pick up, then we do, of course, I'm like, hi, how are you? How are you doing? We get into a little conversation. Of course, I say, hey, I know that sometimes I'll relay what's in Alfred, because they're able to leave notes about their dogs. So I know sometimes they'll leave like, well, my dog's struggling with biting and nipping, or jumping up on people, or barking. So sometimes I will actually like take those notes and put it with my reminders, so that when I'm on that phone call, I can relay that to them, so that they know that I'm actually paying attention, and that I'm like coming from a place of, hey, I put in that little extra time to read this for you. So I'll be like, hey, I know you mentioned this, this, and this. Can we talk a little bit about that? And, is there anything else that you're struggling with? We'll kind of go into that. And then I'll kind of ask some questions like, what do you do for a living? How can we make the dog work with your lifestyle? So we're talking a little bit outside of dog training, and relating to some other things, while also getting them excited about their goals and their vision with their dog. So usually I in the past, when I first started, I would definitely get on like an hour-long phone call with people. And that's something that I had to like cut myself off to because I love talking, obviously. And I would go on and on with people, and I would find myself being like, oh, I gotta do something else right now. So I try to pace my time with it being like a 15 to 20 minute phone call. Because I want to leave a lot of that conversation for the in-person consultation, so that we just don't have nothing to talk about. So I try to just do some quick little, okay, get those 3 things out of the way. And then I'll tell them, because usually people want to ask like, what's your pricing like, or what programs do you have? And that's what I'll usually say to people, like, hey, for me, I don't feel like it's fair to just give you a pricing over the phone, because we do the in-person consultations that are completely free. That gives me an opportunity to not only connect with you and make sure that we're a good match while we train, but also connect with your dog so that I can see your dog. Because oftentimes when we see the dogs, we can see that maybe the owners missed some things that us as trainers need to know in order to give them the best program. So I let them know that. And usually people are like, okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. And they're like, okay, duh. And then they'll be like, cool. Like, I would love to do that. I'll ask them, okay, when's your, what's your availability look like? This is what it's looking like on my end. I can get you as soon as this day. And then people are usually like, cool, yeah, let's put it down. And I put it through Alfred's, just so that they get that like reminder, that little professional reminder of like when they're starting and what time we're meeting. And it does give them reminders too, so that those people aren't forgetting. So you're not left having to text them last minute and wonder if they're actually confirmed for their appointment.
Which is awesome, isn't it? Like, just having something like that is fantastic. I think that's, not to cut you off, but I just want to say this real quick. This is a pro tip for anybody listening to this. Like, if you're not using some sort of online scheduler, I highly recommend it. It seems like one of those things, like in the world of like digital marketing or coaching or anything like that, it's like everyone does it. So it's become just so normal. But for dog trainers, I kind of feel like I've had people say to me like, well, what's the difference of just, texting them myself or not sending this or whatever. But I think that you've kind of had this experience now where like you put something into an online scheduler and it just automates so much of it for you. Like it sends them a confirmation, sends them reminders, and you just don't need to worry about like, did this person forget about this? Are they going to be there and all that?
Yeah. And say like, and it does give you the options to put the clients in that like different category of either like, hey, the consultation is scheduled. So it's going to send the reminders that their consultation is scheduled and what time. We put it into like follow up with the client, then it's like, cool, I can worry about the dogs I have. I can give more attention to my job and not worry about, I have this little assistant, to go and say, hey, were you still interested in dog training? So that me, when I go to these consultations, I'm not frazzled because I have to be like, all right, I got to get back to Jessica and I got to get back to Sarah and I got to get back to Henry.
Exactly.
Once it gets like that, it's just, that's when you're going to get burnt out. And that's when it's going to get stressful for you.
I think that sometimes people think also that like, oh man, I'm so stretched so thin here. And I can't keep up with all the inquiries, and I can't keep up with like, training, and I'm juggling all these balls and I feel like I'm going to drop some. I think that sometimes people feel like I need to hire like an assistant, right? I need to get a person to manage all this for me. And you may be at that point, but I think a lot of times, like what it really is like, you just need a really good system to organize yourself and just kind of have everything in one hub where it's like, I've talked to these people, I haven't talked to these people. And so then you just like set times during the day where it's like, okay, now is my follow-up time where I do outreach to people, or, here's the time where I'm booking calls, or here's the times that I'm doing training. But it's not always like I need to have somebody else do this for me. Once you get a really good system in place, and all of this is already built out largely in Alfred, plugging Alfred here. But if you have a really good system, sometimes it just alleviates a lot of the pressure and a lot of those pain points. And it sounds like that's kind of what happened for you.
Oh yeah. Cause like me being new, think about it. I mean, I go from like just me trying to kind of like, I was always good at responding really quickly to people on Facebook when it came to like adding all the other multiple platforms that we have as trainers. it's easy for something to not notify you, or if you get busy doing something, then you forget about something and you got all these things on your plate. So having this one place where everything goes, where everything's going to send the reminders for me, like you just don't even really, you have to really just do the bare minimum. You have to make sure that you're putting this into this category, and maybe, you know, of course, doing the part of communicating to the client. But it's like, if that's all you got to do, I mean, there's no excuses, right?
Yeah. And so, you know, I want to talk about a couple more things here before I let you go, just because I know you have other things to get onto for today. But so, you know, just to kind of go through like your sales process real quick, you know, so you're on the call, you get them scheduled for a consultation, you get out there. And then something that we also did when you first started working with us is I think that you didn't necessarily have, just remind me, did you have your 4-week board and train, or did you really just started pushing everyone into your 4-week now, right?
Yes. So before, I used to do a lot of like 2 weeks, a lot of 3 weeks. And I didn't even fathom the thought of a 4-week, just because I had felt so guilty that I was already charging this much for a 2-week and this much for a 3 week. So I just felt so bad. You know, I was like, I don't know. It was my self-doubt that was getting in the way as well, where I was just not like, am I giving people the best of my work? I'm trying, I think I am, but it's all this extra stuff that goes on in your head, which is normal, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, going to therapy and talking about imposter syndrome, it's very common, I guess. So nobody panic. We're all in it together.
For sure. Yeah.
But, you know, being able to talk to Tara too, and her knowledge and her building that confidence, and her also, you know, saying, you know, I've been through this too. I've been through this imposter syndrome. I know what it's like. And her being like, you know, you got to do what's best for the dog and for you. And me being able to sit down and say, okay, that 4-week makes sense. I honestly, I know people can do 2 weeks and 3 weeks, and that's great if it works for them. For me, I felt like it was rushing the dog and rushing myself. I would have to book lots of 2 weeks and lots of 3 weeks to make up what I was making for a 4-week program. And now for me, giving the best quality that I can give, I'm giving the best of my effort. I feel great. I'm on a good like schedule now and a structure. I'm making really good family friends with these clients, and we're all like doing this together pretty much. So it's awesome to have that like one-on-one now with having the 4 weeks, because again, it gives me the most amount of time with the dog. It gives me the most amount of time to train the dog, without getting frazzled and the dog getting stressed out. It's like, it's the perfect program, I feel like, for me at least.
Yeah.
So
it works extremely well. Yeah. In your business, it's perfect. I mean, and that was, there's a recommendation by Tara. Shout out to Tara, because she is wonderful. She's our client success manager, for anyone who doesn't know. And she's a professional dog trainer. And so I think that I get to get on these calls and talk about how great our clients are doing. And a big part of that is definitely because of her. And so
she helped me a lot. So.
Yeah, she's wonderful. And so what I'd love to talk about here is like, I mean, making that change to having a 4-week program, about $4K for that program, right? Yeah. And so that made your life, it seems like, so much easier too, because now you can really focus on quality over quantity every single month, right? Where you're like, if I sign 2 clients up, like I've made $8,000, right? Anything on top of that is just, you know, the cherry on top, right? Exactly.
Yes. And I can give them my full effort. I can give them my all. And that's really all I want to do, is give people my all when it comes to training and my time. And it keeps me my head above water, and it keeps everything good. So honestly, the 4-week is a game changer for.
That's awesome. And so let's talk about this for a second. So what I'd love to do is kind of like, if you wouldn't mind just sharing your experience about like how things were going before we started, you know, talking, and before we linked up in February, as to like where they are now. And so we're like mid-April right now, April 17th. And so I know we were talking about a little bit about this before the call, but like, so prior to us working together, it sounds like you were kind of like hovering, like some months you make like a couple $100, maybe $1,000, something like that. And you had another job, right, where you were waitressing. And then pretty quickly you were able to kind of like grow and be able to just take this in a whole different direction. So I'd love to hear from you about like your experience and like kind of like how it all went for you.
Yes. So yeah, before I started working with you, it was definitely, I was in a weird place. I had taken some time to get my mental health on track, especially after working for, you know, just a big company and having so many dogs. I mean, when I first moved out here, I lived in a 500 square foot house, and my furniture was dog kennels. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I want to do this. And, you know, it worked for what it worked for, but it was definitely a stressful situation. I would have loved to have had the opportunity to just have 2 dogs back then. Cause it would have been fine for that kind of space. But it was overwhelming. So I got burnt out so quick. Unfortunately, of course, you know, the people I was working with previously, it was more of a condescending kind of relationship where if I had a question or I was overly stressed, it was like a lot of putting down. So it kind of hurt me a little bit. So when I got out of that situation, I was kind of almost like, I just felt a little wounded, a little bruised out of that situation. I felt like, okay, well, you know, I was just doing it. I obviously had results. I had made amazing clients. I loved what I was doing, but it felt like I had gotten the wind knocked out of me a little bit. Especially even in that business aspect, when you're kind of being put down or made to feel a little stupid, you can get in a place where that self-doubt can get a little higher. So for me, I had to take a serious, you know, break and just say, okay, let me reset myself. I did a lot of meditation, a lot of prayer, a lot of therapy, got myself on a good track. And once I started feeling better and regaining my confidence and regaining like, no, this, you know, this dog training thing just would never leave me alone. Honestly, like there was times where I wasn't marketing at all. And I was like, well, if a dog comes, a dog comes. And I mean, God provided a dog for me when he needed to, and then a dog would come and I would be like, wow, I didn't do anything to get this dog. So it was one of those things where I felt like the universe was really telling me like, no, Eden, you are a dog trainer. Like you're supposed to be a dog trainer. And that's when I had that waitressing job, because I was trying to bring in just a little bit of income. Of course, I have my husband working a lot, so it's not like we were in dire need of it, but it was like, okay, I want to be able to help a little bit. I want to be able to support myself, because for me, like self-care is really important. So I need to be able to do things for myself to make me happy. So that was like my little happiness money. But yeah, I was getting in a place where I was like, all right, I feel like I'm really off track here. I'm spending too much time at this job that I'm not really passionate about, and I'm missing something. I need the dog training thing back in my life. So I really buckled down and told myself, okay, I'm in a good place. So what do we do now? You know, what direction do we go?
Yeah.
So that's where, honestly, it was funny because I think I had you as a friend on Facebook because you had the dog training stuff going on. And I think I saw some things, but I was seeing your posts, and I guess, honestly, on the outside, I was just thinking like, all right, he's just a marketer. Like, I don't know. He's probably spamming, or like, I don't know. And that's not me being mean, but like, you know, I was rolling, and I just genuinely was like, oh, like, you know, this is something like probably super big, and who knows how much money it's going to be, and whatever. And I kind of pushed it out of the way a little bit, but then, you know, you kept coming back on my page, which is cool. And I eventually sat down and was like, all right, I'll give him a chance.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it's not, you know, I always joke with people and say it's not lost on me that I'm just a guy on the internet who's like sending you a DM on Facebook, you know? So like we all see this, you know, where people make all these massive promises, and then, but I never want to be the person that over promises and under delivers. It's just like that's such a bad way of doing business, in my opinion. Obviously. And so yeah, but you know, just going back to like when we first started working together, like I know that, like you had said, like you invested like almost like your last, like, you know, like money you had with me to and us to really like give this a shot. And so, you know, I take this very seriously with all my clients. Like the way that I look at it almost is that like, you know, you're going to like a financial advisor and being like, hey, I want to invest money. And so what I always say to people is that like, I will invest your money the same way that I would want my money invested in like my marketing. Right. And so I'll never forget, like, even like a week into us working together, you calling me and me getting on a call with you and Ben, and you being like, I'm just not sure, you know, what's happening here. And
yeah,
I think a big part of it is just like, you have to be a little bit patient, you know, because just like anything else, like there's a ramp up period, but then once it gets going and it's going, and you just book 1 consultation and then 2 consultations and then 3, and you start seeing the opportunity here. And so now I'd love for you to share with everybody, if you're comfortable, just kind of like where you're at now, like, you know, revenue wise on a monthly basis, and kind of like what you have planned.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, before we started working together, it was like, I was happy to get a good tip at night, you know, from a nice stranger at work. I was like, really, like, I always give people my all. So it was not, you know, I would always like be like, cool, I made $31 on one table. That's awesome. And, you know, I was really just, I wasn't making a whole lot. And So I went from making maybe like, I think we talked about like $1,000 a month, maybe even less than that, to now I'm pretty solid at like $10,000 now that I just hired someone.
Yeah.
It's always kind of gonna, it's, you know, it's from like 8,000 to like 11,000, depending on how many dogs we get in and
For sure.
what we want to do that month realistically.
Yeah. That's a 6-figure business, by the way. That's a big milestone. That's pretty impressive. And to be able to like 8 to 10x your revenue in like a 30-day period is pretty mind blowing when you think about it.
I'm over here and I'm tipping people $31.
Exactly.
I'm like, I'm just happy today. Here you go. Here's $31.
Yeah.
So it feels nice. It feels good because I am that type of person who's a giver, and I want to take my grandma for lunch, and I want to go and do these things for people, and I want to shoot my friend a $20 Starbucks gift card here and there. And now I feel like I'm in a place where I can do that and feel comfortable doing that, and also back into my business and put things in savings, because that's the most important thing right now, is to pay off the debts and put everything in savings. Just so that we can continue to make this thrive and do better and better, honestly. And something I want to talk about real quick is that like you're hiring somebody already as well. Like you've now been able to not only be able to provide like a really nice lifestyle and build a really good business in such a short period of time, really like a 60-day period. But now you have this opportunity to hire a guy who's going to allow you to bring in like 2 more board and trains. And we were able to structure a deal so that it also doesn't kill you. Like he makes good money and then you're making good money as well and keeping like a really healthy profit margin in the business. And that's something that I think that a lot of times people struggle with, is they were working in jobs previously where they were so underpaid. And so all they want to do is pay this person that they've hired so incredibly well, but then it doesn't leave any real profit for them because of all the other expenses that come along with, you know, having that person. And so, I mean, so you hiring Vaughn, what is that going to allow you to do, like revenue wise? Like how much more, when it's like when he's fully trained up, like how much is that going to allow you to add to the business in a month? I mean, probably another
close to like 8 to 10 grand, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was trying to like think math wise, like, cause of course he's getting his pay from it. And I was trying to like subtract it, but
but just revenue. Just generally revenue.
If he's taking 2 dogs, because that's what I want to keep him at right now. He's just off with 1, just so that we can, like, you know, we like to ease our way into the pool, not really cannonball ourselves. So we're sweet and slow and good. I mean, I'm so confident in him and I know he's going to do amazing. So I know already he's going to be by next month, he should have 2 dogs and be on the same flow. And that feels good because of course, if I'm going on vacation or say Vaughn wants to go on vacation, like we're not really, I mean, you know, we're still in a really good spot. And it's nice to be able to give that consistency to someone else as well. Cause that's something, I mean, I would have loved to have done this, you know, in the beginning of my career, is have someone, I don't want to be like, have someone like me, but to have someone that really, you know, has a good heart and is doing it for the right reasons and that consistency. Cause I've worked for people before where they're like, well, I mean, we're not doing good this month, so you're probably not going to get a dog. And I'm like, what do you mean we're not getting the dog? I got to pay rent.
I got bills to pay.
Bills to pay.
Yeah. Well, listen, let's wrap it up for today. Okay. Because like, I know you have other things you got to get to, but I just want to say this, you know, this couldn't have happened to like a better person. This is so well-deserved. Like, and I'm so unbelievably happy for you. And what I love to do is like, I always like to end these interviews with like, you know, first off, is there anything that you want to share with anybody, anything you want to plug? If not, like, I'd love to kind of hear from you about, you know, like the advice that you would give to somebody who's in your shoes, that like the shoes that you were in like a couple months ago. Like, what would you recommend and what advice would you give to that person?
Yeah. I would say don't give up. As much as that sounds like cheesy, is it's like, if you really want it and you're passionate about it, don't let your mind get in the way of anything. Don't feel hopeless, because there is always, I mean, I took a chance with Kevin, and this chance has given me exactly what I've always wanted. So thank you, Kevin. You're amazing.
My
so
pleasure.
Honestly, okay, how about this? If this is if you're seeing this right now, this is your sign to sign up with Kevin. So there we go. That's all I gotta say. As far as a plug, Willow Tree Dog Training, we really care about the state of mind of your dog and you. So that's what we really focus on. And yeah, once you train with us, you're a part of our Willow Tree pack. And so we would be so excited to have anybody that wants to be a part of it, even in a small way. If we help in any way, we're always here to do our best and give, our best in every aspect of training.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're seeing this is definitely your sign to get started with Kevin. Even if you are nervous and you're in a position where you're like, dang, I got my last $1,000, whatever. Because that's where I was.
Yeah.
I really took a risk, but this risk, it was so well worth it. And him also just teaching me that patience, of course you got to give it some time. All of us get nervous when we invest something into something for the first time and we don't see it immediately, but honestly, like good things are worth waiting for if you and it's not even a big wait at all. I mean, I think it was like a week and I already had 5 consultations lined up for me. So honestly, just do it.
I
like
appreciate you saying that. Yeah. Yeah. And seriously, like I said, I mean, this couldn't be happening to a better person. So we'll have to do another check and call in another like couple of months, see where you're at like the 6-month mark or the year mark, because I can just tell that things are going to keep getting better and better. But listen, my friend, I appreciate you so much for taking the time to do this with me today. And we'll talk very soon. Okay.
Of course. Okay.
All right,
bye.